I have become bitter. Well, even more bitter, I suppose. And I have become cynical. Well, slightly more cynical, I suppose. I mean, let's be fair. Sardonic cynicism is kind of my sweetest jam, and it's a trait not uncommon in Generation X, to be fair. But as we get older and fatter and greyer, the naturally occurring curmudgeonly tendencies that age brings only serves to focus our long-honed sword blades of incredulity and scoffing skepticism. Hello again, I am Blunty, and today I saw Ghost of Tsushima is getting a movie adaptation. Under news detailing, a lead screenwriter has been chosen. Someone whose work I'm not familiar with, so I'm not going to detail it here, and, you know, the way Hollywood works, it could change at any moment anyway. The important point is they're trying to make a Ghost of Tsushima movie, likely following on from the apparent success of the Uncharted movie. Dubious as it may be according to the ratings that I've seen, I haven't seen the movie, but Sony Picture Studios and PlayStation Productions are pushing ahead with the inevitable plan to turn any successful video game into a multimedia machine to cash in on any popular game's name before the cow is milked dry of cash and every last drop of fan goodwill has drained away into the gutters of capitalism. As to my cynicism, I read the news this morning, shortly after waking, and I found myself aware that while once news of this type, news of a movie or TV adaptation of one of my favourite video game properties would have filled me with excitement and anticipation and joy, and now it just has me feeling kind of exhaustedly apathetic at the whole prospect. Is it age? Or is it merely experience that one acquires as time inevitably marches on and we age alongside that? I think it's experience, quite frankly, and I can back it up. More and more over the last decade or so, I've been noticing my anticipation for certain things, especially TV and movies based on properties I already have a love for, is met not with the gushing excitement and exuberance and the I can't waitedness of my younger days, instead replaced with trepidation and wariness and weariness and the statement of, well, I want it to be good, I hope it's good, because I love this thing, but I'm going in with low expectations, on the notion that a pleasant surprise at it being actually good is a better feeling than disappointment in something you hope would be good, but turns out to be shite. Because, you see, I've already been disappointed so many times over decades. And Ghost of Tsushima is a game that is inspired by and paid heavy tribute to something else that I love, classic samurai movies, and in this case, very, very specifically, Akira Kurosawa movies, whose talent for visual storytelling is rarely matched even today. He is a legend in cinematic history. And if you've never seen his films like Seven Samurai, Throne of Blood, Yojimbo, or The Hidden Fortress, you are missing out on some amazing films. Films, by the way, without which George Lucas would probably have never ever made Star Wars because he borrowed heavily from Kurosawa's movies, especially ones like The Hidden Fortress. But Ghost of Tsushima, the game, was not a remake or reboot of something that Kurosawa made. Instead, it was just paying tribute in small ways to his style and aesthetic, using it as inspiration, as a palette from which to paint. So upon learning this before the game's release, I was never really worried about it on that factor. And as it released, I became absolutely obsessed with it, absorbed by it. I was filled with such joy. What an amazing game. Now sitting among classics that I consider my all-time favorites. It is, well, it's not perfect, but it is fantastic. But adapting it into a film, I worry it'll be let down by corporate fiddling over artistic integrity, or merely from being made by people who were just fuck it up out of ineptitude or hubris or arrogance or any number of other factors that have ruined similar projects in the past. I mean, Ghost of Tsushima's story and its characters aren't all that unique. Most, if not all, play on pretty standard stereotypes and tropes from the genre. Now, that's not always a bad thing. Tropes become tropes for a reason because they work well in stories and whatnot, but in this case, the reason Ghost of Tsushima was so good and was received so extremely well and was loved by so many was not because it told an unforgettably special story. It was because it was a good game. It was a good interactive media. The gameplay, especially the combat, were exquisitely fine-tuned. It was also stunningly pretty and carefully crafted. Exploration was rewarded around this beautiful map and its various biomes. Puzzle solving felt natural and inherent to the world and the people in it, and not sort of stapled on video gamey. Hell, even the standard open world collectathon stuff, which is usually the most tedious thing in any open world game, was rewarding in and of itself. But strip all of that away just to retell the story itself? I mean, it could probably work, but why? 2021's Mortal Kombat. Mind-numbingly crappy, like just one of the worst films I've ever been subjected to. It attempted to do the same thing, tell the story of Mortal Kombat and its characters, minus the thing that made the game actually popular and what people liked about it: the gameplay. 2020's Monster Hunter, almost universally loathed by actual Monster Hunter fans and largely panned by regular moviegoers and critics. I kind of liked it on my first viewing, but I recently watched it a second time and I realized, wow, it's just a really, really bad movie. Just awful. The novelty wore off quickly on that one. Same year, 2020, Sonic the Hedgehog, a game that never really had much of a story anyway, and the movie was, well, actually, it's hardly a cinematic classic, but it was pretty fun. I don't know how rewatchable it is, but it didn't suck. It was better than most people were expecting it to be, which I think is why it was so welcomely received in the first place, because people were expecting it to be really, really shit, and it turned out to be just average, and that was good enough for most people, so shrug. 2019's Detective Pikachu, an outlier that is a genuinely good movie. It really is. It stands on its own as a good movie, not least of which because of the unstoppable charisma of one of its actors. You know who I'm talking about. How about Rampage, or Assassin's Creed, or Hitman, or Prince of Persia, Max Payne, Doom, Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within. Oh my God. Oh, did Final Fantasy fans hate that movie. Whew. Hell, even the new Halo series, currently airing, only a few episodes deep as I record this very video, is kind of terminally dull. A Halo TV series that hardly ever fires a weapon after the opening act. The one thing that the games are filled with and known for, Halo was one of the most high-action FPS titles that also had a pretty good story to go along with it, and they made a TV show where every character just kind of plods around slowly and pensively moping about secrets and lies and alien MacGuffins, with a charmless cast of charisma vacuums and generic-looking sci-fi rooms. The only iconic Halo thing about that is the opening act and, of course, the suits. Everything else about it could be from any generic sci-fi half-assed B-grade TV show. Video game, movie, and TV adaptions have had far more miserable, joyless crap vomited out of the Hollywood content machine than good ones. And even the good ones aren't usually especially great when judged against their original made-to-be movies from the same genres. They bank on name recognition and exploiting the fandom enthusiasm to make their money as quickly as possible from these things. Money being the driving factor, of course, not telling a compelling story with engaging characters in fantastic worlds like movies should be. It is creative corruption at its most pure, most corporate, most capitalist. But then again, there is a small chance it could be something amazing. Something like Arcane, whose ties to the League of Legends video game are barely lent on at all. Instead, it was made by people wanting to tell the absolute best story and character pieces they could, made with passion and craft and skill and a nearly heartbreaking comprehension of human nature. It is truly the absolute best visual media made from a video game source to date. And I say this as someone who has precisely zero interest in the game itself, and in fact a minor repulsion for it. For the brand in general, based purely on the player community that I've come across and its legendary toxicity. I had no intent of watching Arcane up until a few people whose taste I trust started raving about it, so I tried it to see what the fuss was, and I wound up shotgunning every last one of the 9 episodes all in one sitting, all at once. It was amazing. A work of art. So, maybe Ghost of Tsushima will be like that, but I won't be holding my breath. I will be going in with low expectations of a shallow, surface-level adaptation focusing more on style than substance, and probably desperately trying to ape the Akira Kurosawa stylistic choices without actually understanding why they were important for any given moment in his films to begin with. Cynicism, I know, but I've bloody earned it, I'm telling you. I've spent decades being annoyed and disappointed and let down in various attempts to adapt games, comics, and cartoons that I have loved into live-action movies and TV shows, and extremely rarely have they been even slightly as good as the original, and rarer still, good in their own rights as movies without the fandom and context of their source material and pandering to Easter eggs and nostalgia. It is early days yet, of course. There is no script, no casting, not even outline of the plot. Like I said, they've only just signed on the writer. But I couldn't help feeling exhausted just hearing they were trying to make it in the first place. It's okay to just have nice things, wonderful things, joyful things, and just leave them alone without trying to squeeze more out of them for no good reason other than money. Thanks for watching. Speaking of money, patrons, thank you. Thank you all for watching at the end of the video. I look forward to hearing what you think about this. I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.